All right, hey everyone. So today I'm going to show you a really exciting project called Dub from Stephen Tay. And Dub is a open source link shortener that comes with built-in analytics and also a custom domain that you can set. So it's pretty cool because it comes at a time just months after GitHub officially announces that and actually deprecates its own link shortener service called git.io. I don't know, many of you probably still use Bitly or something like this, but I highly recommend that you check out dub.sh. It's a really cool project, not only because it's a fully hosted application actually, so you can just jump on over to the domain dub.sh and get started for free. So it's a hosted service, but also it's a really great learning project for those of you who want to understand what a full stack Next.js application looks like and really see it in action with tons of users and actually see it scale. And that's pretty cool. So before we dive in, I just wanted to check out, when did, Stephen, I don't know when Stephen came up with this idea, but, he started it around mid-August. So, we're just about 3 months in and he's still actively developing it. I'm sure through his Hacktoberfest tag, he's got some pull requests coming in. Not sure, however, there are 50 pull requests that are currently or that have been closed. So we can see here a couple of Hacktoberfest submissions came in, which is pretty cool. It's always great to see the open source community really come together on this. The project itself, starts off as a simple Next.js application hosted on Vercel, but it, gets really intricate very quickly. And I'll guide you through some of the source code as well, which I find super interesting. So it's a little bit of a different video than I usually do. I'm not going to attempt to self-host it, although in the README you'll find a deploy on your own or deploy your own dub, and it gives you a one-click deploy, which links out to Vercel. It's not that straightforward to self-host it on Vercel because the application does contain a lot of hard-coded dub.sh URLs, which you would need to replace in the code itself in order to redirect to whatever domain you choose to associate that project on Vercel. However, I think it's not really about self-hosting this project. If you want to self-host it, you'll make it work. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. However, I think I see this project more as a learning project for anyone that wants to build this full stack application on Next.js. It's using as the tech stack for the now third time Next.js, using TypeScript, which is now the default since Next 13. And it's also using obviously Tailwind, but interestingly, it's using for the database, it's using a MySQL hosted with Planetscale. And for the link and the shortener, it's using a Redis instance with Upstash. And this is something I'm really interested to show you later as well. It's also using NextAuth, which is, kind of the go-to authentication layer if you're using Next.js. Vercel is Stripe for hosting and Stripe for payments, of course. The project is AGPL version 3 license. That means it's, source code is available. It's open source. Any kind of modifications need to also be made open source. Whether you fork it and make your own modification, they need to be open source. And other than that, it's just, a safer license than MIT, kind of to protect the original creator and maintainer, basically from any big giants to steal the source code and host it by themselves and sell that service. So it's pretty cool that it's a full stack application also hosted by Stephen. on dub.sh, where you can go start for free. It also has pricing. Just to highlight this, it's free up to 1,000 clicks per month. From that, it's an incremental pricing ladder as you get more clicks on your links. But I think it's pretty fair. Again, if you're desperate enough or don't want to pay this, then you can obviously host it yourself. However, starting with the free tier is definitely the way to go. And then, growing with the project. The really cool and convincing thing why you don't even need to self-host it is because it comes with custom domains out of the box. So you don't even need to think about it. If you have your own domain, like mine, mfts.io, and I want to add like a link shortener, I would just, go through dub. But let me show you how kind of the interface looks like of dub before we dive into the code. So really you sign up, the authentication process. I'm not going to bore you with that. It's got projects where you can set up basically your custom domains, or you don't need custom domains. You can also set, just projects and bundle them all under these. And then you have individual links, and these are kind of like individual links shared across dub. So I managed to secure, Steven Dub, for example, or AGPL3, and even Hello-World. However, there might be someone else who has Hello World or anything, right? And it's pretty simple to add we can have a randomizer, which just, uses a kind of like a nano ID. So there's another JS project that we can use, or you can add your own hello worlds. Let's say plural. If we use hello world, I'm sure this is taken. Let's see if this recognizes. So I actually own hello world. It recognizes this is already taken. Apparently hello world is not taken yet. So let's copy on over this. And just to show you what kind of advanced options there are. So you have UTM builders where you can add kind of like your attribution to the links. You can have password protection, experimentation date, and you can even create OG titles, descriptions, and images. The image you can upload yourself. With the paid version, it will generate an OG image for you through Vercel. So that's pretty cool. All right. Once I hit add link, you can see it's being created right here. We can copy the link. We can look at a QR code, save it as any kind of like file type, even remove kind of like the dub logo, and so on and so forth. And then in our dashboard, we can see kind of like the graphics of how many clicks we garnered. Maybe this project is kind of boring. Let's look at this project that already received a couple of clicks. And we can see kind of like the anonymized, country, cities, which type of devices and browsers and operating systems. We could like capital case this. This could be something of a pull request right here, just to make OS, not operating system, with system being small, but also capitalized. And then, of course, the referrers. So that's, very basic, but, what more do you need for analytics? And then as for the settings, you've got your plans. We can upgrade, downgrade, and so on. And then we can create a project. So I can create a project called Mark's project. And then let's say my custom domain is i.mfts.io. So I own mfts.io, but this points to my homepage. So my link shortener would probably be something with an I in front. And it creates my project. There was a small blip, but this creates my project. And you can see here through Vercel's domains API, we actually get a txt DNS record for this subdomain, which we can add to our DNS record host to kind of prove the ownership that we own mfts.io. And I think this is pretty cool. It only takes you one DNS record and you're set. You can also add a separate landing page if you want, and then you can collaborate with a team, for example. And then here you've got your links. So this only works once your domain is configured, but it basically essentially works the same as we have it right here in the dub.sh links. So that's all from the platform. Let's dive into the code itself. And the code is, as I said, it starts off as a Next.js application. We've got pages, we've got our public folder, we've got some components, we've got a lib. It's currently running Next 12. Will probably soon be upgraded to Next 13, using Upstash for the Redis and QStash. Got a couple components from Radix UI and VisX. So VisX is the visualization library. It's using NodeMailer to send out emails on your behalf. And yeah, let's see what else. I mentioned Tailwind already. The pages repository is kind of busy. It's got a proxy route. It's got an auth route for our NextAuth, of course. It's got an API, and it's got a app route. And yeah, and the index, which is our homepage. Right here, it's dub.sh. And I think the most important file, if you want to dive into this project and understand how things work, would be kind of the middleware.ts file. Middleware.ts file is a new file from Vercel, or not so new anymore, but it basically takes incoming requests and you can manipulate them, reroute them before passing them on. And this is exactly what he's doing, and that's also how he's able to host dub.sh and app.dub.sh on the same repository. Let me show you right here. So right here you export this function middleware, which taking a next request and a next fetch event. It's basically parsing the request, understanding which domain it's coming from and the path and so on. And then it's defining two core host names. So one is home, which is dub.sh in this case, and the other one is app, which is app.dub.sh. And to understand a bit more, we've got our constants file right here, where we can basically see the host names as dub.sh. There's the preview and localhost. For the app, it then redirects. So first it's looking, is this file or is this request coming from app.dub.sh? If so, let's redirect to app middleware. If not, we'll redirect to root middleware. If not, we redirect to the home directory. And finally, if any of these is not the correct path, then we're redirecting to, so I guess the home one is the most important. Let me elaborate a bit, because it's also the longest if statement here. If it's app.dub.sh, it's pretty clear that it belongs to the app. So we easily redirect here. If the key length is not 0, that means the key length is whatever comes after is passed in with the path. If this is 0, then it's the root middleware. If it's not 0, then we're going through the home route. And basically, if it's any of these, and let's say it's dub.sh, and if we compare, let's say, if we go to dub.sh/hello world, we understand, okay, it's dub.sh. So we're in the home directory. Now, our path starts with static. That's incorrect. Our default redirects, and we can again look in what are the default redirects? These are the default redirects. It's not in any of the default redirects. So in the middleware, this is also false. And finally, it's none of the reserved keys. A reserved key would be anything from API, static, stats, etc. So it's also none of that. So that leaves us only the link middleware, which is basically where the magic of the redirect happens. And all this happens within a couple of milliseconds so that you basically don't even notice it. So on to the middleware, or the link middleware, where the actual magic of the redirect happens. Right here, and actually if you want to follow along, on the left side you can see which directory I'm in. I'm in the lib directory, middleware, and then link.ts file. So right here, we're fetching our request. We're passing in our request. As you can see here, so we're passing the request and our next fetch event. In this request, we're parsing basically the domain and the key from this request. If there's no domain and key, then we move on. So next respond next will basically move on to whatever comes next in the middleware. However, if there is a domain or a key present, then we're fetching from Redis the URLs, the password, and possibly the proxy. Also possibly the password. So it's not a given that there needs to be a password. So it's either true or false. Once we've got that, we've got basically our URL, which we're renaming to target. And then if the target's present, we're basically, again, running through a couple of if statements here. There's something called dub-no-track. This is very much special, I guess, to planetfall.io. Actually not sure. I guess it's like just a do not track header. We check if there's a password. So, if in the cookies it says, dub is authenticated or is not authenticated, then we'll pass on and move him to the auth route, where this person needs to then enter the password in order to get redirected. And then finally, if there is a bot, we will, redirect the bot to its own kind of like proxy domain. And finally, if none of that is true, if it's not a bot, if it's not password protected, and so on, then we are finally redirecting the user to the target. And that's when you land. If you type in hello or dub.hello.world, you arrive at this nice blog from Git.io deprecation. And so this is a lot, but it's just a great example of how you work with the middleware in Next.js. And yeah, it's just such a testament to it. And also what's really interesting is really how you can basically host both your Apex domain, so your home domain, and your app subdomain within the same repo, especially if the home domain is not a massive marketing page, just maybe a one-pager, as it is in the case of dub.sh. Right here, this is basically it. This is the homepage. It's a single page that contains pricing, features, and logos, and even a demo. So super basic, and he doesn't even need more because it's so easy to get started and sign up. that it's self-explanatory. One last thing I wanted to show you is basically, let's say we want to create a new link. So for that, I went into the API links and then into the index. And right here, we can see something called await AddLink. And it basically takes in the link, it saves it as it passes my session user in here, the user ID, and the current domain where I'm setting it, along with the rest of the body. And the body is basically what we're creating here. So it's kind of like the URL, the key, and so on, everything that you're creating. But AddLink is, from also again in the libs directory API and then in the links. And if we look closer, we've got basically this entire section here creates our new link shortener. And let's dissect this a little bit. So it takes in link with link properties, which are defined in a types file. And we can look at the types file real quick, but it's pretty much the same as it is you would expect in a database, except that it's defining which links, which types this link can take as properties. All right, so we've got our domain, our key, our URL, expire set password, title, description, and image. Finally, we'll first check whether there's a password or not. We'll check whether we kind of have a our own image, our own description, our own title, yes or no. In case of hello world, I actually created a title and description, not an image, so this would still be false. And we didn't set an expiration date, so this would also be null. Then we check if there is any key that exists. If not, it will return false. However, we also get the UTM parameters. And then finally, we are kind of like creating a database entry in our MySQL database through Prisma. And that's pretty cool. So what we do here is we basically pass in all the link features. We cannot pass an image yet before it's uploaded. So everything that we've received from the body, we pass into Prisma, save that. And then finally, we also create a Redis entry with the domain and key value pair, alongside with the URL as kind of like the domain and key are the key, and then the URL, password, and proxy are the value. Not exist is true, right here. And then we're uploading the image, if there is an image. We upload that to Cloudinary, and from here we are returning, or we're updating the link because we previously couldn't upload the image. So we're uploading the image now as a secure URL and responding this right here into our response and returning it to the front end. And yeah, that's pretty much how we just created a link shortener, or a link within our link shortener service. We can also do the same thing when we edit links, for example. Finally, I wanted to show just also the Upstash .ts file, which does a couple things like recording clicks, for example, it basically counts how many links. If someone clicks on the link, we want to count how many clicks this link received so that we can show it on our dashboard. How do we get the browser and so on? This is all done right here. So whenever the link is clicked, we're hitting this function record click, where we're basically saving when was it clicked, and where's the geo, which user agent, which includes the operating system, the browser, and the device. And then we've got the referrer, and we've again got a timestamp. So that's it. That's pretty much it. The project itself is really cool. There's other really neat things that are being done here. If we look into the authentication, for example, the NextAuth, one really cool thing is, so it uses it just a email login, so a magic link login, no password required. Super great, because passwords suck and they're super outdated. What it does here, it does send an email whenever the user has registered for the first time. And yeah, that's pretty cool. It updates the user. And yeah, that's pretty much the project. Like I said, deploying your own can be a bit tricky because of, as you've seen, just in the middleware alone, there's dub.sh hard-coded right here, and in the home host names as well, and in the default redirects as well. So it will not be a one-click deploy, unfortunately, but I think it's the best that you could do, while also hosting it for yourself. And like I said, the code is completely open, so you can go in and mess around with it. Just make sure you also open source it afterwards. And yeah, thanks so much for Stephen Tay. I think it's a really great project. I hope it's a great side hustle for you. And I believe, just for anyone starting out, really diving into this project will be a great learning curve. And, it's kind of like, the early days of, Ruby on Rails, where you've got like this full stack project and you can look at other people's code and you learn so much. And I think this is an exemplary project where you can really learn a lot from how to build great Next.js applications. So thanks so much for putting this out in the world, and for everyone else tuning in, thanks so much for listening. I see you in the next one.